society and essentially introduce a social credit system, as we've seen in China, where you get rewarded for certain activities, you get punished for others, and the punishment will include, well, sorry, your money is not going to work for certain transactions.
Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. Very interesting video breakdown today for you all. I have some interesting fundamentals and some video clips to play for you all. We're going to be going down the rabbit hole discussing central bank digital currencies. Now, this is a topic that we have been discussing across the CYPRX platforms for quite some time. This is me just attempting to keep you all in the loop with what is going on surrounding the digital asset space and central bank digital currencies in particular. Now, we all know that central bank digital currencies, now, of course, if you're new here and you don't know, okay, CBDCs is the acronym for central bank digital currencies, refers to a digital form of fiat currency that is issued by a country's central bank and backed by its government. Now, we've covered this multiple times across the CYPRX platforms. Watch some of our previous video breakdowns. We've been mainly discussing potential monetization and control that CBDCs could have. So while CBDCs have its proponents who believe that it could offer a range of benefits, such as greater financial inclusion, increased efficiency, and reduced transaction costs, there are also some individuals like myself and other individuals whom I'm going to show you in today's video breakdown who are skeptical or oppose the idea of central bank digital currencies. Now, I've shown you that in previous video breakdowns, so make sure that you go back and backtrack some of the previous content that we've made on central bank digital currencies if you're not already up to date. And if you enjoy video breakdowns like this one, again, going down the rabbit hole, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure also that you all are aware that we are going to be releasing my new book, Forever Efficient, sometime in April, so look out for that release date as well. Let's move on. So one of the main concerns that people have regarding CBDCs is the potential risk to privacy. That's the main concern. Specifically, some individuals are worried that a CBDC system could compromise their financial privacy by allowing central banks or other entities, governmental entities in particular, to monitor their transactions or access their financial data. Now, this concern is not unfounded. It is very common in the digital asset space. So with that being said, the use of CBDCs overall and the uncertainty surrounding them is because they could allow for unprecedented levels of financial surveillance and control, especially if the system is designed in a way that makes it easy for authorities to track transactions and monitor individuals' financial activities. So I'm going to display some fundamental video breakdowns, some interviews, and some PDFs in today's video breakdown and allow you all to generate your own bias as to the direction that you want to head, whether you support CBDCs or you are against them. Generate your own bias. Make sure that you all are doing your own personal research. I myself am against CBDCs, mainly because I have a firm belief that CBDCs are going to be utilized in a way to design to require users to provide things like identity information when making transactions, or they're going to be utilized to track the flow of money in ways that could reveal sensitive information about individual spending habits, things like also financial status or even political beliefs. And then also, I have a firm belief that there could be potential use cases surrounding CBDCs that could be used to enforce negative interest rates or other forms of monetary policy that could harm savers and exacerbate economic inequality. So, you know, take it upon yourself to do a little bit more research as to what's going on. Just a couple of years ago, people didn't believe that this was a possibility, and now we're seeing these things come into the limelight. So sit back, relax, enjoy this video breakdown. Again, some very interesting fundamental clips for you all and some video breakdowns that I'm going to share today. So let's start down the rabbit hole. We have Kiko News, obviously, of course, shout out to Kiko News for these video clips. One of my favorite free YouTube interview channels. They always come direct with the information. They're not diluted and they don't pop smoke. Very informative news fundamental channel. So we have an interview from Kiko News where they discuss and talk about CBDCs. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this little tiny video clip, and then we'll start to break this down. Also, this video clip is a little bit of a longer one. It's about 2 minutes long, so just bear with me, but this is jam-packed with lots of valuable information that's going to lead us down the rabbit hole, reading and displaying some PDFs and some fundamentals to you all.
Of making transfers of funds and payments. So why do we not suddenly need to change it? What is this CBDC about? Obviously, the difference is the C, the central. What we've had so far in America has really benefited very much from is a decentralized monetary system consisting of literally thousands of banks. They're all creators of the money supply through their decision of who gets a loan, which small firm, and they're kicking the tires, they're checking the loan applications. It's a very decentralized structure at the heart of the economy. And now there clearly is a drive to introduce something that is far more centralized, central bank digital currency. So that's one important aspect already that goes to the heart of the issue. Do we want a centralized system? A centralized system with a central planners in charge, or do we want a decentralized system where many people make decisions? And the central planners are not so powerful because there's many others that make important decisions. So this centralization is a very, very important aspect of what's going on. And of course, there's a problem with centralization. The centralization, you see, once you start centralization, it just continues. Centralize more and more and more. In fact, that's really what's already been happening for several decades in the banking system. What does it mean, centralization? Well, concentration. The number of banks actually declining. In the US, in the last 35 years, 10,000 banks have disappeared. In Europe, there's a new central bank, the European Central Bank, ECB, and it's a young central bank, only 23 years old, and yet they've succeeded in killing 5,000 banks already under their watch through their policies. And it's an official policy. They say there's too many banks. We want fewer banks. Why? Well, they're a central bank where the central planners work, and central planners want to centralize. And where does this lead to? If policies continue that are not really helpful for banks, and we can come to that, recent examples, runs on particular banks, and what's the role of the central banks in this? Anyway, the number of banks will continue to decline until what is left is the central bank, only one bank. Now, we've had this before. We've had this in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is the prime example of a centralized economy with central planners in charge, and you have one central bank. And the central planners are most powerful, and they have a centrally planned economy. Now, this doesn't deliver success. A decentralized system is empirically very well established, is far more successful, more efficient, more effective, and more resilient to shocks. It's more flexible, and the decisions are likely to be better if you've got 100,000 loan officers in thousands of banks.
So all in all, this gentleman's argument is saying that decentralized systems are more resilient to shocks, way far more efficient than a centralized system, which is what they're pushing for. Now, during this gentleman's discussion, the two documents that I displayed to you, one from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, where they start to talk about in this document, this fundamental, the slow and steady decline in the number of U.S. banks continues. And that gentleman was talking about how their agenda overall has been to diminish the banking system and to focus on centralization, and how they plan on making the central banks the leader of all of this. Okay. Now, also, I displayed to you guys this PDF. Now, this PDF is quite old. This is all the way back from 2002, and it talks about the transformation of the European financial system. Now, the individual in this interview mentions how the ECB is a part of this as well, diminishing banks, over 5,000 banks, I believe he said, or maybe 10,000, I don't remember the number. Maybe that was in the US, 10,000 banks in the last 35 years. And then over the last 23 years, over 5,000 banks in the ECB have been completely erased, have been completely ceased to exist. They've been taken out of the system, right, on purpose by these central banks in order to create a centralized system. Now, to support that theory, I always like to find documents, professional documents that are from these individuals to support what these people are saying, so that we can actually generate valid information and not just chalk this up to some conspiracy theory. So I want to take your attention to page 152, where it goes on to discuss and talk about this. And it says, the second institutional feature we want to analyze in connection to the central bank's attitude towards arm's length markets is the degree of decentralization of power. A completely decentralized structure where all the powers reside at the local level is not good for markets. So here in a central bank PDF, they're trying and attempting to say that decentralization is not good for markets. However, this individual is claiming that decentralization is the most efficient way for markets to operate, right? Now, that's very interesting. Moving on to another part of this PDF, if we scroll down here to page 202, it goes on to say, the European financial integration and equity returns, a theory-based assessment, would be to establish a centralized agency in charge of issuing debt on behalf of the Euro area's governments. Such a proposal was made in 1999. Now, it talks about that they want to establish a centralized agency. Again, this is all the way back from a PDF that came from 2002. So this has been a long, drawn-out process, an agenda in the making. All right. So now let's take our attention back to this interview. I have one more video clip from this specific interview where they go on to talk about direct tracking and programmable money. Pay attention, because I have a PDF that literally is from the Bank of International Settlements, the Dutch central bank, where they claim that their overall goal is to create oversight and supervision of the monetary system.
Banking details from banks, but this would give governments a direct way to see every single transaction made, every single payment made, every single payment received. So break down that idea for us, how essentially it's just a form of fiat currency, but that is on a blockchain type of platform potentially, and that it eliminates privacy, eliminates anonymity, and could also be potentially programmable. Expand on that for us, please, Professor.
Yes, well, the key aspect is really the programmability. The blockchain, in a way, is a bit of a distraction, because it could be on a blockchain or not. It doesn't have to be. You have different options, and ultimately, they could even, just before launch, change their mind and say, oh, it's not going to be, distributed ledger blockchain. The key thing is, it's programmable. The technology is there to not just monitor every single transaction, but also to analyze this in real time and intervene, step in. And you can have, very quickly, using algorithms, AI, ways to reshape society and essentially introduce a social credit system, as we've seen in China, where you get rewarded for certain activities, you get punished for others, and the punishment will include, well, sorry, your money is not going to work for certain transactions. And the central planners will decide what's good for you, what you're allowed to buy, where you're allowed to buy it. Oh, you're outside your 15-minute city area. Oh, sorry, your currency, your CBDC is not working anymore. And you can then also even fine-tune what type of things you're allowed to buy. This book is okay, but Princes of the Yen at quantumpublishers.com, well, that one, we don't want you to read and find out how central banks been manipulating the cycles and the economy to increase their power. And so it doesn't work. You can't buy it. They can essentially decide what's going to happen in society. Now, that is such...
That last statement right there that he made is that they could essentially decide what happens in society simply by programmable money. They can control what it is that you spend your money on simply by, saying, hey, if your idea doesn't meet our agenda, then we can control what is. He was talking about particularly a book that he wrote, right? If they don't like the information that's in the book, because he discloses maybe potentially how the central banks have been manipulating the system, well, then you won't be allowed to go out and buy that book. So they can literally control, track, and monitor everything down to the last penny. So with all that being said, I want to take your attention over here to a interesting PDF. This is straight from the BIS.org from the Dutch Central Bank Eurosystem. And if we come down here to page 3, right, it goes on to say, the first, second, and third contribution to CBDCs and what it is that they're looking for. And it says a third potential benefit is that blockchains can be designed so that central banks or supervisors can see details of all transactions. Look at this right here. This is literally nuts. This is them admitting what it is that they're going to potentially be utilizing this technology for. This allows for regulatory supervision and oversight, which is needed for maintaining the high standards of integrity in the financial system. They literally said it's needed. Regulatory supervision and oversight. They want to be able to track, control, and monitor you. Again, this is coming directly from the BIS.org. We're not making this up. This is a possibility that is in the making of being rolled out right now as we speak. It's literally insane. Which leads me over here. Now, like I said, there are individuals that are opposed to this, I myself being one of them, but there are other major political entities that are not in support of CBDCs. This article came out from the Daily Huddle, and I'm in full support of these individuals that are opposed to this new CBDC system. This article from March 20th, 2023, Florida governor moves to ban CBDCs, calls for a coalition of states to follow suit. I'm going to show you guys his little tiny briefing that he gave where he talks about banning central bank digital currencies. But if we come over here, all right, some very interesting key highlights from his little tiny debriefing. It goes on to say, a direct quote from the Florida governor. And finally, I am calling on like-minded states like Florida to adopt similar legislation into their Uniform Commercial Code and to reject any changes to their Uniform Commercial Code that would formally recognize any central bank digital currency. If you can hold it in your hand, you have power over that. i.e. gold, silver. I've been talking about, potentially diversifying your portfolio into real assets that operate outside of the banking system. Again, that's not financial advice. Take it upon yourself to do your own research. But it goes on to say right here, the minute it's digitalized, somebody else is going to have control over that. And it's just a matter of whether they are going to let you live your life, or are they going to decide to do things to circumvent what you want to do? All right. So that's very interesting. Again, from Ron DeSantis. I hope that I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But here's a little tiny video clip of the statement that he gave surrounding central bank digital currencies. I will link this maybe potentially in the description down below so you guys can go check this out. Or just follow me on Twitter. I retweeted it if you guys want to go watch the whole thing. It's about 33 minutes long.
With a federally sanctioned centralized bank of digital currency. Today, I'm here to call on the legislature to pass legislation to expressly forbid the use of CBDC as money within Florida's Uniform Commercial Code. This will ensure that Florida continues to be a state that supports innovation in the financial sector through the market, while protecting against government surveillance over your personal finances. But our legislation shouldn't stop there. Given the continued increase in Chinese influence in worldwide affairs and increase in plans to adopt CBDC worldwide, our legislation also prohibits any CBDC issued by a foreign reserve or government-sanctioned central bank. This will ensure that any effort to adopt a worldwide digital currency will never occur in the free state of Florida.
All right. So like I said, I retweeted this. If you guys want to go watch the whole entire 33-minute video, just go ahead, check out my Twitter. So long story short, I need to get the heck out of California and move to Florida. So yeah, I'll think about that in the future. Moving on. Okay. That was a very interesting article. Now let's put down the CBDC dilemma for just a second. Okay. I thought that this was interesting. I shared this on the Twitter space as well. Look at the manipulation in the market to shake out retail investors. These individuals know that they cannot stop private sector innovation. They know that distributed ledger technology is going to revolutionize our payment infrastructure. Okay. And so they're going to put out little tiny fundamental articles like this one. This one just came out just the other day on the 17th of March, 2023. It goes on to say, former Belgian finance minister calls for a crypto ban in the wake of banking crisis. So they're going to use these catalysts, again, to shake out the retail investor. We know as smart investors that prices across the board with these utility-driven assets, again, it's not financial advice. You need to take it upon yourself to determine what those utility-driven assets are that could potentially run the back end of our new financial ecosystem, but they are all over 80% discounted, okay? Or at least they were, some of them, right? Moving on, it goes on to say, this individual, again, John Van Over, blah, 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 I'm not going to butcher his last name, a member of the European Parliament, goes on to say, another lesson to be learned from the current banking commotion enforces a strict ban on cryptocurrencies. Van Overveld tweeted saying that these assets were mere speculation with no economic or social value. I thought that that was interesting, so I highlighted that. He goes on to say down here, if a government bans drugs, it should also ban crypto. So he's literally categorizing, revolutionizing technology that could completely enhance our entire payment infrastructure to drugs. That is literally mind-blowing that this document even, this fundamental even came out. It's literally insane, the manipulation. So the reason why I'm sharing this to you all is because a lot of people won't go and read these. Now, you can go and you can check out these newsletters, but this is a newsletter that Larry Fink, the CEO, okay, of BlackRock, the largest investment firm in the world, put out to its investors. So again, remember, in correlation with what this individual said, that cryptocurrency has no economic or social value, right? This is a FUD article to shake retail out. Meanwhile, the largest investment firm company, what are they doing? They're putting out annual letters to investors, says right here. Okay, again, Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO. And if you scroll all the way down to this letter that he put out to his investors, okay, at BlackRock, where it goes on to talk about digital assets and cryptocurrencies, digital assets right here. For the asset management industry, we believe the operational potential of some of the underlying technologies in the digital asset space could have exciting applications. In particular, the tokenization of asset classes offers the prospect of driving efficiencies in capital markets, shortening value chains, and improving costs and access for investors. At BlackRock, we continue to explore the digital asset ecosystem, especially areas most relevant to our clients, such as permission blockchains and tokenization of stocks and bonds. He's already said in a panel discussion and previous video breakdowns that we've covered that all assets are going to be tokenized. That is trillions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen. So of course they're going to put out articles like this to shake you out of this digital asset space, right? Saying that they have no economic value. Do not listen to these individuals. Do your research and generate your own bias. If you're reading these articles and getting flooded out of your positions, your long-term bags, your holdings for the long haul, I cannot stress enough to wake up and realize what is about to happen via the financial ecosystem behind the scenes, okay? With that being said, if you all enjoyed this video breakdown, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. We do appreciate the love and the support. Don't forget, the release of my new book, Forever Efficient, will be dropping sometime in April, so look out for that announcement, i.e. either on the YouTube, the Twitter space, or the Rumble page. As always, ladies and gentlemen, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to go out there and buy or invest in digital assets. I know what it is that I'm personally doing with my money that I'm willing to risk. With that being said, take it upon yourself to do your own research, be cognizant, be aware, and I will see you all in the next video breakdown.